Yeah, so this last episode, more for Ashley and I, and just for us, there were some things I just wanted to. I would regret it if I didn't testify about how my son lived and fought, and how he really did lead me through this time of just terrible suffering, and just some remarkable things, and how he suffered so well. And just wanted to take a minute and recount some of those things, because if we record it, it'll be there almost forever. And you know, the hard part about him being gone is, you know, those memories do fade, and they're not as sharp. And that's one of the awful things about the sting being not so sharp, but the consequence of that is his memory is not as, and just those things we went through with him, you know, we'll forget them, because it's just not there in front of us all the time like it was. So yeah, just wanted to take some time on that, and as best we can, and if it's helpful for people, great. But this one's more for us.
Yeah,
I like that.
Because one of the things that jumped, like the whole podcast, I shared this with you guys last night, but you know, this is Abram's Song podcast, and for me, why we call it Abram's Song, there's several ways that there's a meaning there, but in the very practical way, Abram loved to sing his God songs, and his God songs he just made them up.
yeah. They were never actual lyrics, but they were amazing, and that's what made them so sweet. Like, he just wanted to tell you about his God, and it was never anything we did. Like, that's the most crazy thing about our son. Like, this was not any kind of parenting. Like, yes, our kids were raised in church, but this was Abram had this connection with the Lord that was really just a gift from the beginning. I mean, early on.
Yeah, and one of the things my dad pointed out to me this last week, you know, I have had, like Ashley said, difficulty singing since he's passed. There's just not been a song in my heart that I could sing, like in a praise and worship setting. And but Abram never stopped singing. Like, I've got video of him, you know, 2 weeks before he died, of him. He's blind. He's medicated out of his mind. He's, you know, he does not look. I mean, his skull's not all
tumors
deformed because the tumors are going nuts, and he's singing a God song, and that was what was on his heart.
It's always what was on his heart. Like, that was.
And a lot of the things that I'm having to deal with now in grief, I never had the opportunity. Like, I couldn't go and be angry and be mad, because he wasn't. So as bad as it was as his dad watching my son suffer, it was worse for him. Yeah. And he never despaired. He never said, "Why God?" He never said,
"No,
what the heck."
I mean, I remember the hospital when, I mean, everything's in pain and he's not okay and he's in so much pain. And I remember him so distinctly saying, as we're doing immunotherapy, which I think immunotherapy is amazing, but it was really painful, physically, like when they infuse it. And so I just remember him sitting there and being like, "God, the doctors can't help me. No one else can help me. Only you can help me. Like, whatever medicine they have, it's not enough." That's just hard. It's hard to, but he never, I mean, he was so confident that the Lord could do it. And I will tell you on this side, and I still wrestle with this, so to leave it open-ended, but I remember just sitting there begging the Lord of, why would you not answer this kid's I mean, childlike plea. And you know what? He didn't. And I remember wrestling with this, and I remember even talking to Jason about it at some point, because I was just like, I do not understand this one. Like, there's a lot of places I can get, and this answer doesn't fix it, and this is the only answer I got. And I still don't know that I even necessarily agree with it, but it helped a little bit put it in perspective of like, Abram's journey is different than mine, and what God is allowing him to walk is not. It didn't make it better, if that makes sense. Like, that was one of those things. It's like, yeah, that didn't fix it. It doesn't make me feel better necessarily, but it's an answer, I guess. You can do with that with what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But his faith in those moments was insane. When I was very angry, and I'm still angry about those moments. I still don't get to this day why God allowed him that pain, where I'm like, would it not be better? Would it not be better if you just descended? Like, I mean, right now, just take the pain away. Like, you could do that. And I believe he can. And I believe he does, actually. But he didn't for Abram. And I don't know why. And that's hard.
Yeah. He really suffered in so many ways.
But it didn't change his faith. Even that, like, it changed my faith where I wrestled after that. Abram did not.
Yeah.
It didn't change it.
Yeah, he was resolved. And I mean, the Lord just had his hand on him in a very special way. Like, he would just,
yes,
he would remark to us just kind of offhand, like, he saw spiritual things. He
saw angels. He saw demons.
He saw angels. He saw demons, and it's just real matter of fact, not like just a big show. And
this isn't something, like, to put it in perspective. Like, this is not something. I mean, I think Jack and I have entered more into that realm where we're like, okay, what is that? What does that mean? This was not something we talked about in our house. Like, this is not anything he would have learned from us. It was just a matter of fact. And so it's been more on our end on this side of, okay, if you saw that and we didn't teach you that, like, what does this mean? And so just I think the perspective is important, because what he saw was really his. It wasn't being fed to him on any level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
my favorite, you can tell a sword story.
Yeah, so he's telling us a story about the angels, and
he's in a room,
and he's like, I think he told us there were like 2 or 3, and he said,
you could just see him.
And he's like, yeah, but I knew the one with the sword. He was in charge, and I was like, okay, and,
that sounds great. He probably was.
I don't. If I've seen an angel, I don't know it. Not in that respect at all.
Yeah, I don't think either of us have had experiences like that.
So I'm trying not to put words in his mouth, but I'm trying to glean from him this, and he's just real casual about it, and it's not like, oh, Dad, can't. It was just, because
it's so matter of fact.
And then even with his story about seeing the demon, like, he wasn't scared because it's like, Dad, there was this wall, like, it couldn't get to me. He was there, and I didn't like seeing him, but
I remember that. And just, there's a wall. Yeah. You couldn't get him.
Was this while he still had his sight or after?
This is while he had his sight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember after. I don't know that there was.
I don't think.
I don't remember stories from that.
Yeah. And so we would try and, like, check in with him from time to time, but didn't want to make it like, oh, if I tell Mom and Dad, it's this big thing.
I think it was a gift that I think the Lord just gave him. And so I didn't want to discourage it. And so I don't know enough about it. So we were trying to really be careful how we enter into it, because I think what the Lord was giving him, was very sweet. And so I will say, I think one of the biggest things for me that I can say, looking back at Abram's story and that whole time of just him being in the hospital and all this stuff, like, to say that the Lord wasn't there. I mean, we can look back at Abram's story, and yes, ultimately God did not answer what Jack and I prayed. Like, we wanted the Lord to heal him, right? But to say that God wasn't there is the most probably hurtful thing that probably anyone could say to me. That God isn't real, that it, like, I saw God meet my son in a way that, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out. Because that kid never asked if he was going to die. He was never scared. He was never, I mean, he was scared of being poked and stuff, but not of death, not of cancer. And that was not his fear. Like the Lord did something in my son that was one of the biggest gifts that I can't negate. And so to say that God didn't answer, even though it wasn't our ultimate prayer, like, right, obviously, ultimately wanted him to live on earth. Like, but he did. God was there. God showed up. God said yes, time and time again, in a way that to this day is a huge part of what sustains me on where I'm at now.
Yeah, it's one of our hardest wrestles because like the Lord was so faithful in so much of it, except our utmost desire. And
he was so faithful to Abram. I think God showed up fully for Abram.
Oh, for sure.
And he showed up fully for us. That's not to say that, but Abram never asked that his life would be spared. Like that wasn't like like everything that Abram needed, God did. He did.
Yeah.
It was for us that we wrestled.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't what we wanted.
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, he loved, I remember him sending videos to his two uncles who had COVID. And, he's blind and can't see. But I was like, hey, bud, let's make some videos.
No, he loved that stuff.
And, he just couldn't. He was so, and he felt like it took a lot for him to do that. And he didn't have a whole lot in him.
This is in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, last 3 weeks. And he's still, and he taught me a lot about courage, because courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared to death and doing it anyway.
Yep.
Because we talked a little bit about this previously, but just the grind of the treatment process is you're going in at least weekly, you're getting blood drawn, which for a little boy who doesn't have very big arms, and then he's deteriorating, like finding
it's really hard to find a blood cell.
Finding those veins. And God bless those ladies down there at Children's, because they did
an amazing job.
Mostly a great job, but the times that they didn't,
it wasn't really their fault.
But even when they nailed it, he would be so anxious and scared. It's like, Dad, do I have to get a poke? Like, yeah, but we gotta get a poke. And but he would trust me in moving forward and going to do it, and he'd do it. And he hated it, and he was scared, and he hated it, and he showed up, and he would do it anyway. And even like one of the big things and I believe it, like motion is lotion. Like, it's like if you want good use of your faculties, use them. And so like it was important when he was getting treatment, to go do walks, and that would not be very far. We just do like a little loop around the nurse's station, and he didn't ever want to do them. So I'd push him to go do them. And walking helps you use your extremities, get your gut moving, just all these good things. But it just, in the moment when you feel like shit, like this is the last thing you want to do. And he would do it, and he would push through, and
he'd be proud of himself.
Yeah. And he's like, Dad, are you proud of me? I'm like, but I am so proud. He fought so hard and pushed through so many of these just terrible things to try and overcome. And I miss witnessing those things, because it so encouraged me to follow his lead and all that stuff. And it was awesome.
I think one of my favorite gifts, if you want to use that word, I don't know if that's the right word in terms of what I'm going to say, but we had 4 kids in 4 years, so our lives were chaotic. So getting one-on-one time was not an often occurrence. And Abram goes in the hospital, and I got more time with him than I could have ever. That was a gift in a weird, twisted form of the word. But I think one of my favorite things was it was maybe a couple of treatments in after he started feeling a little bit better because the tumors were shrinking a little bit at this time. And he just started doing this thing. And we're pretty rigorous, and we still are, but like about bedtime. It's like this when you go to bed, this is your schedule. And Abram learned real quick in the hospital if I just start asking mom questions. Because I had like my little blow up bed and I'd lay next to him. If I just start asking mom questions, she'll let me stay up as late as I want in the hospital. And so
we're talking now, Mom.
Yeah. He would talk to me for, I'm not kidding, an hour, 2 hours. Like that kid, but the way he was wired, like he was deep. He was always deep. I mean, from a young age, we saw that. Like he was so emotionally aware and could which was a gift. Not all of our kids are like that. That's not naturally how all of our kids are wired. But he was wired where he could put words to his emotions so easy. He could tell you exactly what he felt. And so he could tell you feelings and all this stuff. And so he just wanted to have these conversations in a way that at his age is not a normal conversation to have, right? And so the gift that I got was just these times. And I just started, as soon as I realized what was happening, I started soaking it in. And it's probably to this day, I think one of the biggest gifts I got, because he would just talk to me. And he talked to me mainly about God. Like that's what he did. He wanted to know about God. He wanted to know about these things. He'd ask me questions. And I can't tell you, how many times I'm like, I actually have no clue. Let's look that up tomorrow. And we would, and we'd open the Bible and we'd look stuff up. And I didn't know his heart and the depth. And I think because of how I'm naturally wired, like I like deep, I like real. And I got this experience with my son that you don't normally get at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just don't. And I think I'll get that with all my kids. Like I really do. I think the way Jack and I are wired, like there's no way we're not pressing into those spots. But I think the Lord was really gracious in giving it to me with him so much sooner. And there's some of my favorite memories. And I hate it to a degree because they're all at the hospital. They're all at the hospital. It's those late nights with him. But there was a safe place for a while before Abram got really sick where chaos was gone. It was just me and Abram. And we just got to be together at the hospital, and he wasn't feeling, sometimes he was miserable, sometimes he wasn't. But I got these moments with him that were really sweet. And it's different than your story, but it was because you just didn't get the same.
Yeah, mine came later. Like I played video games as a kid, but really
he was all about
didn't do that. I did a little in college, but post that I hadn't played. But video games
you
became
did some solid Zelda before he got sick.
No, that was when he got sick.
No,
We didn't have a Switch. We didn't have the game.
No, we had one Switch. Yes, we did.
But I didn't play it.
We'll circle back to this conversation.
No, remember, because you started playing with him and you got frustrated. And so...
All right, you might be right.
Yeah.
You might be right.
Anyway, video games was this great way to connect with him. And he loved the adventure. He loved the stories. So we played...
he didn't want to play it. He wanted to watch.
He wanted to watch, but he wanted to...
He wanted to be partner
with you in doing it. And so I started playing video games with him. And we'd play all night in the hospital, and then we'd sleep all day.
There's no rhythm in the hospital.
We were like college bums or something. It
was great.
And it was so fun. And he would, he'd root me on me like, "Oh, Dad, that's so awesome!" And
when he got going, you don't stop. Yeah, like it didn't matter. Like until he's tired, we just would. Yeah. I would stop, but you wouldn't.
As it went along, like you just never knew when you'd catch him at where he was feeling good, and
it could be the middle of the night.
Yeah,
and we soaked up whatever it was.
Yeah, and Ashley, through one of the tips and tricks of the hospital stay, like she had these blackout curtains that she would suction cup to the windows because they had like the little blinds, but usually when the sun was come up, like they weren't worth much.
They had huge windows. I will also say though, we learned even better on the back end. Like we just got the mask. We didn't even use those anymore. Do you remember the whole back half?
Yeah.
We never used sleep masks, and we were all about sleep masks for a while.
Yeah, sleep mask.
They're one, but I loved our hospital, but I will say the massive windows with no blackout is such a fail. Like,
Yeah. But anyway, we'd have adventures. We'd build Legos. He loved Legos.
I did more Legos. I'd never really done Legos with any of our kids. They weren't old enough, honestly, when he went in the hospital. I mean, we had done them a little bit. I think the Christmas before Abram got sick, literally that year, like 2 months before we knew he was diagnosed, we got Legos for the first time for the boys. And I remember Jack and I staying up at Christmas building them because they need to be built to give them because they wouldn't know. I mean, they were too young. We were just trying to get him into it.
Yeah.
And Jack and I had a lot of fun doing it, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But Abram took off in the hospital, and I love that stuff. And that was one of my that was another favorite memory. Like, he'd find him, I'd put it together, and then as Abram got better, because he was really learning at the time, he'd build and I'd find. It was just a fun.
Yeah.
We did every set that hospital had, to the point where they ran out, where they'd come in and be like, "Oh, you already did this one?"
Yeah.
And then we had, thankfully, like, there were so many people that graciously gifted us. I mean, we had so many Legos, to the point where he actually didn't get to build them all. But I will tell you what a gift that was to Ezra, who is now my Lego man.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've gone through all those, but it was cool that he got to do some of Abram's Legos.
Was there anything that, having him gone through that experience that he did that surprised you, that you saw him do that was just different, or, that the circumstance kind of brought out of him that, took you back?
It really was just knowing, like he of our kids, he really, like, if he was anxious and nervous about something, like, I mean, it was just, it could be overwhelming for him. And so,
But he could articulate it. Like, that was what was crazy about him. Like, he could say that, though.
well, I'm aware of it because he could do that.
I know.
Right.
And that's such a unique gift, if you want to use that word again. I should stop using that word. I need to pick a different word. I don't know what it is.
But so knowing full well of these struggles that he's navigating, but the courage to do it. And I mean, some of those things were just so awful.
I mean, even the pokes, like, so he had a double port. So they get a port. And so every time he would go in, he didn't get one, but two, which I will tell you, I'm very thankful that he had a double port, because there were times that was a game changer where he got way less poked. But every time, it's the anxiety behind that was a lot.
It wasn't unmerited
No.
anxiety. Like, it hurt, and they would miss and have to do it again. And it just,
It's a lot.
it was a lot.
It was not unmerited, but it
was,
he had to do it. And
Yeah.
so as a parent, you're sitting in this perspective of, trying to meet them in that, where it's just like, this really sucks, and you still have to do it.
yeah.
And it's a crappy place to sit.
Yeah. One of the things I was struck by was just, he was feeling a little better. We were walking around the oncology floor, and I think there was a little girl. He became aware of this other little girl, and someone shared, like, yeah, she was just diagnosed and going through treatment. Just the empathy he would feel, because he knew full well what that meant for that little girl, and he just felt so sorry for her, knowing everything he was doing, she was about to do.
He always had so much empathy. Unlike you or me.
Yeah, it's really a God-given. That's not our Ashley and I's natural pull at all. But he
cared so deeply for every person. Like, even us. Like, I remember the hospital, just being with him and him just being worried about me.
Yeah, I remember y'all saying that all the time. I was y'all in talking about him in videos, Tom said like confident was a word, extraordinary maturity, and even maturity in his faith. That the selfless, like the video to his classmates.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, oh my gosh, like not coached, and you're like, that's just coming straight from his heart. Like, and you're like, golly, he should not be saying those things and doing those things or thinking those things along what in the spot that he's in. And it was always just like, right? Like, hey, I hope Jesus is taking care of you just like he's taking care of me.
And that's what we put on his gravestone, because it was a video to his school, and we have an amazing elementary school that we go to, and he wanted to send them a message, and he lost sight. Had he lost sight yet?
Yeah, he was blind. So he had gone to kindergarten for half a year, and
just coincidentally is the exact same time COVID hit, so everyone went to kindergarten for half that year. But
yeah, well, that's true. But I mean, we
didn't know this. Like,
that was his full experience at the school. But he
got diagnosed before COVID hit.
He really thought about his classmates in school quite a bit. And
he was so worried. There was these two kids in his class that he was good friends with both of them, and they didn't get along, and he's always like, Mom, I have to go back because they're not going to be able to get along without. I mean, he was so worried though. Like, he's like, I need them to be okay and be friends, and I need to make sure they're okay. And so on his gravestone we did put the quote that he said to his school, and it was literally, I hope Jesus is taking care of you because Jesus is taking care of me. And this is when he's blind. This is a month before he passes, if even. I mean, he cared so much about everyone else. And I felt it. Like, I can't tell you how many videos I have of that kid I'd be like, I just want to take some videos, bud. And he's like, talking about, Mom, I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you. And I mean, like, no kid does that. Like kids don't normally like that's not what you normally get, is all the affirmation. Like, I love my kids. I love all my kids. And I actually think our kids are special. Might be. Anyway. And they do. They're very, very sweet kids. But he did it in excess, where he wanted so bad for you to know how much he cared. And I think the coolest thing I see now, even on this side, is the other kids following suit. Like, today, Ezra brought home a letter of just that he wrote to me, and with a picture of just how much he loves me. And I see Abram in that. Yeah. I see Abram showing his brother how to love people well. Yeah. And Ezra's doing it. And he is. Like, I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. I heard this story this week. It's always so fun to hear memories or stories about your kid that you don't know.
It's a gift.
And maybe I was told this at the time. I just didn't remember. I was sitting with my grandmother this week, and she had told me when my mom was sitting in there with Abram, he asked my mom if they could call Granny. This is like 2 days before he died. And like, he really wasn't talking very much, and just my mom's doing most of the talking, and then she's like, "Oh, Abram," and he's just like, "I love you, Granny," and that's all I could get out. It was a very small, quiet voice, but she was telling me that I'd never heard that, and he just wanted to do those things.
He wanted people to be loved.
Yeah, and I miss his old the nurse practitioner and lead of the team. She said she'd miss Abram's old sage advice and the way he just had a funny way of saying things.
He did.
Like on a couple occasions he had to have a catheter, which anybody's had a catheter knows they're terrible.
I will tell you, I don't know if there's anything he went through that he hated more than the catheter. I mean, that kid went through more crap than I think any one human should ever go through, and he hated the catheter. But I know where you're going with this. It's my favorite.
Catheter gets tricky.
Yeah,
it's tricky. But do you know what he called it?
No,
do you know what he called it?
Yeah.
Wait
so
for
the catheter he called. He's like, "Dad, I don't want to. Whatever we do, I'm not doing anything. I have to do that penis straw." And
God.
And they started calling it that. Like, he's like, I do not want a penis drop. And I was like, that's actually very accurate.
They got a fancy word for it, but that's just truly what it is.
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And he would just
he did not he would do anything else
man.
other than that. He was like, I do not want that.
yeah, and he'd tell you exactly why.
Yeah.
Oh, he would tell you why.
Yeah.
That's probably TMI for the podcast.
But he just he had a funny way of saying things, and I think not uncommon for like an oldest child, but he would be the one parenting us a lot.
He would.
Like, Dad, you really can't talk to Mom that way. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, bud, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let me go apologize to Mom now. Like,
Yeah.
He's really good.
But it wasn't condescending, but it was kind of like,
no, it's just a matter of fact.
yeah, just like, come on.
Get it together.
Yeah. He just,
He had an old soul, though.
Yeah.
he did. And I mean, some of my favorite thing, I remember him getting home from treatment one day, and he was like just released, and
He was wiped.
and his siblings were out in the front yard, and his youngest brother was trying to ride his bike.
He was probably, what, 2 at the time? 3? He might have been 3 at the time.
Yeah.
I think he was 3, probably.
And so I've got a picture of Abram like pushing his little
Wanted to
brother.
help.
Yeah. And he's got like no gas in the tank. He's
Yeah.
and it's hot outside. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but we had just come back from treatment, like even nauseous and sick. I mean, he had literally no energy left, and he wanted to push his brother on the bike. And we told me, I mean, because we were just like, hey, bud, you want to come out here? And we like got him a chair to sit with us while we watched the other kids go up and down. And he saw Eli struggling and was just like, I'm gonna go help my brother. And it's just one of those moments you're just like, I mean, neither of us got up. We're both like,
Watching him
I
struggle.
mean, literally, we're like, he'll figure it out. It'll be fine. We're done.
Yeah.
We're tired. And Abram gets up, and we're just like,
Wow.
I mean, that's just how he was. He just he cared. He cared so deeply about everyone in a way that I hope I can be like him when I grow up. Honestly,
Yeah. That was a familiar phrase in our house.
I want to be like Abram.
I want to be like Abram when I grow up, because
His faith, just determination to love people was where Jack and I think on both those fronts, faith and just loving other people, got really hard. And the situation that we were dealt, and we watched our son thrive when we couldn't. And that was, I want to be like him.
yeah, for sure. I just think about story after story, and even this hat I'm wearing, it's one of my favorites. So he'd get a prize for doing his weekly clinic appointment, and you do this for almost 2 years, like.
You ran out of prizes. That was actually a thing.
The prize box is not as exciting
Yeah.
as it was when you started, because you got all the cars and the Legos, and you're like, okay.
The prize box got a little.
But he saw
It's
this-
amazing. They should keep doing it, but
Well,
it runs
you were
out.
with him when he picked it out, right?
It wasn't. He didn't pick it out. It was they brought it through, and the second he saw it, so it's one of those things like where you're in a room and they would randomly drop off stuff from different people. Is what it was. It wasn't actually from the prize box, but it was. They drop off stuff from different people, and came in, and the second he saw it, he was so excited. He's like, Mom, Dad's going to love this hat. Can I give it to him? Like, that was like it wasn't even like
Yeah. What can I get?
what do I get?
Yeah.
Like, he was so excited to give it. And then I remember when you got there, did I warn you about it before just to be really excited? I don't know. I might have.
Maybe.
Like, he was so excited about it. I was like, you need to be really excited about the hat. Like, Abram had a goal. And that is something about Abram. Like, when Abram had something in mind, like, it was a thing.
Yeah.
And then you got to, like, especially in this season, and I think in a very healthy way, we catered to that. Like, when Abram was excited about something, like, in this season of life, like, you're going to
Roll with it.
you're going to get excited because it is. And I think that's good for all kids, but there's a degree where you can't do that on a practical way for every single kid every single time. But I remember being so excited, and Jack went in. He's on cloud nine. It's still one of your favorite hats.
Yeah, I wore it a lot initially, and now I'm kind of like scared to wear it too much and
Wear it out.
Wear it out.
Yeah.
So I'll never get rid of this thing.
Yeah.
But the gift of that, where he was just like, Dad will love this.
Yeah, I do love it.
That's awesome.
It makes me think of him every time I wear it.
But he did that all the time. I can't tell you how many things we have. I mean, one of my favorite things that he did was we came home one day, and I think he's on hospice at this point. It's later in the game, and he writes this whole big card. He's like, Mom, I just need to make a postcard, and I need everyone to know how thankful I am that they're all praying for me. And I'm like, yeah, bud, they're all praying for you. Like, of course they are. Like, and he's like, but I need them to know. Like, I need them to know that I'm really thankful they're praying for me. Mm-hmm. And I have it. I still have it hanging. Literally, it's above my desk that I work from at home. And it's this huge postcard folded in half. And he only did one side of it. But it's thank you for praying. And it has his name with a heart. And I'm actually planning to get on my arm, like the one that's on there, his name with the heart tattooed on there. Because it was one of those moments where I'm just like, I'm hanging on by a thread. I'm not okay. And what my son wants to do when we get home from the hospital is make this card, and he wants me to post it. And I did post it. But he's like, Mom, I need you to take a picture of it. I need everyone to know, like, their prayers matter. And I'm just like honestly, like, from where I was at in that moment, like, I'm not in a good place. I'm struggling. I know my son's not doing well. And then to see him and his faith in that is one of those moments you're just like, as a parent, like, okay. Like, yeah, like, there's no way in hell I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But he just did. He cared about people. He cared about God. That was, I think, the big, he cared most about family. Maybe not more than God. I don't know. They're probably equal. Yeah. But he, at the hospital, like, we'd be gone for forever. And what he cared about was he did not love, and I loved. It was actually very sweet. Everyone would gather around, our neighbors. They learned really quick, though. He did not love it as much, but they wanted to welcome him home. Right. And he's like, yeah, hell no. Like, I'm going to run inside. Like, he didn't love all the attention. That's just not how he's wired.
Yep.
You know what he said every time we were at the hospital? He's like, Mom, but I'm just supposed to be at home. I'm supposed to be at home with my family. Because family is the most important thing, and family is what matters. And I'm like, these are not things we're saying to him. So, like, just to preface it, like, it's not like but it's just about family. Like, we just need to get home. Like, he is just like, Mom, family is what matters. And he cared so deeply, and he fought for that. And to the degree where at the end, like, I think everyone in grief does it different. I think there's a benefit of being in the hospital. I think there's a benefit of being at home. And we knew without question what everyone wanted. Like, it wasn't ever, it'd be harder if they're younger. Like, I don't think you can know. And I actually think there's a lot of benefit at hospital. It'll be easier as parents. But it wasn't even a question. It's just like, he wants to be at home. He wants to be with family. Like, and we did that, and that was a gift. Like, we got to do that well at the end for him, where he was with family. And he loved being with family. Him and his little thumbs up. He did this all the time.
Yeah.
Even at the end, I mean, he did it within the last week of his life. He wanted to show joy. He wanted to show, like, I'm okay. And his spirit was okay.
Yeah. It was unbroken.
It was unbroken. Ours were broken, and his was not. And that is one of the crazy things of watching your child battle through all that. The fact that I really don't think his spirit was unbroken.
Yeah.
Even though ours were. So.
Yeah. Just one of my things on survival, like getting out in the woods and doing a hunt and stuff. I was watching a hunting show with Abram, and he always talked about it. It's like, Dad, because I'll try and go on an elk hunt every year, and he's like, Dad, when I get older, can I come with you? I'm like, yes, absolutely. And we were watching this.
Those things are hard.
Yeah, those are hard.
On that picture.
Yeah, he drew. Well, we've got a picture hanging in our house of a picture of him
elk hunting with you.
Elk hunting with me. But I remember watching. We were watching this show, and guy's out in the woods for a couple weeks or 3 weeks, and it occurs to Abram's like, Dad, he's out there a long time. I was like, yeah. I was like, how does he do that for so long? And I was like, well, son, that's his job. He's like, you can have that job. Like, and then he's like, looks at me, he's like, Dad, why are you not doing it? It's like you failed, Dad.
Yeah, you
like,
picked a horrible job. Computers, Dad.
I was
You
like,
could be doing so much better.
I was like, you're right, son. I did. I don't know.
Not be good for our marriage.
It's like, yeah, I should just go hunt for 8 months out of the year. I don't
Yeah.
What's
That
wrong
would have
with
worked
me?
out great.
But yeah, that was awesome. There's so much the way the
The
world
way
through
he
his
cared
eyes.
for the siblings was a big one too.
Yeah,
I mean, even I will say, Jubilee and Eli were both young, like when he was in the hospital. So they drove him crazy when they would come up, but he would do it because he wanted to see them.
Yeah.
But then there was him and Ezra, and to this day, like the bond they had, I think is will forever be one of my favorite memories. I mean, they are so different. They are completely different kids. And I think there's a really big gift in that they got to connect in a way that was, I don't know, it was different. Like in a different way that I think siblings don't normally do. Like they really didn't, I mean, they butted heads, don't get me wrong, but not to the degree that I've seen most. To even stuff that we deal with now. Like it was different.
Right.
I mean, they were best friends. Truly. And I think one of the things that makes me most proud, honestly, of Ezra now is I see him trying more with Eli. And I think it's because of how Abram loved on him.
sure.
And it's hard because the truth is Ezra and Eli have a way bigger gap. I mean, no, I say way bigger. None of ours are big, but bigger than, the other two.
Yeah.
But I think they will be. I really do. I think Ezra will get to have that with Eli because of what Abram had with him. And I think as they get older, that will be a thing. And even Jubilee, like, I loved watching Abram love on them, and I see it in my other kids now. Like, the compassion that Jubilee has is very much like Abram's. And I think it's a gift. And I think she saw her brother love people well, and she does it now too.
Yeah. He's
still seen around our house.
Yep.
We see it often. We see it in us and how we fight. We see it in our kids. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we're like, we have the best kids. And I know probably a lot of parents say that, but I actually think we do. So,
yeah.
I mean, they're just, what our kids have walked through is the impossible. And when we talk about all this hard stuff and us struggling and not being okay, and yet, like, our kids love on us, like, in return. Like, I think it's mutual, if that makes sense. Like, yes, we're the parents, and yes, we pour out everything we have to them, but it's not empty anymore. Like, and they're getting older, and there's a thing to that, but I think because of what they walk through, it's more so where they're like, I don't know, they're engaged, they're aware that we're struggling too. And it's not lost on them. And so I think that's Abram. Like, he knew where people were at. He cared about people, and I think it overflows to all of us.
Yeah. It's good. It's hard for us to get in those spots, but it's good for us to recount those things. And it probably happens most with our other kids when things happen, and we'll get to.
Yeah.
Because with you and I, like, it's hard for us to hang out in that space. We're telling a story, and then it just quicker, maybe not so quick sometimes, but it'll get sad.
Well, because you realize what you're missing. so we can share these amazing stories. But
but when we're sharing it with our kids, it's
still alive.
Yeah,
it's alive in them,
very much alive,
and we see it, and that is a gift that I'm very, very thankful for. He is amazing.
Yeah, we miss him. Amazing.
He still is amazing, and I'm ready to hug him again one day.
Yeah, and I do think, and I was just sharing this with some, that when everything is thrown at someone, you were exposed for what's really there, right? And he just shined so brightly, and
he really did.
I mean, just with all of it. I mean, I hope.
Oh, should I check that right?
Yeah, I hope to have a faith that resolved. I hope to have a courage like he did. I hope I can love like he did. I can suffer well like he did. Those are all things that, I mean, he was just so preceded us.
Yep, he did.
We're grateful to have had him.
That is so ultimately true. Like, I hate what we've been dealt. I hate that this is our story. I would not choose the story, and yet I will tell you 1,000 times over, the fact that I got to be his mom, the fact that I got to love him, to raise him, I would take every second of it for the pain now, because I got to know him and experience him in a way that no one else will. And I can share, but they won't. And I got a gift, and it was too short. And yet I would take it 1,000 times over for all the pain now. Like, it was worth it. And
he was worth it.
He was worth it. He was I'm so glad I was his mom. I'm so glad I was his mom. I'm so glad that God allowed me to get that story. I wish that wasn't the ending. I wish that wasn't the end of the story. And it's not the end, but the end of time here. I wish that wasn't it, but I would still take it. I would take that over not having ever got him, because he was worth knowing, and he's changed my life.
Yeah. Yeah, as his dad, I was just so proud.
So proud.
And it was like the weird, like, I'm so proud that this is who you are and the character you have. And so, like, I didn't raise this. I didn't.
He was so much not what we did.
I didn't mold this. I didn't craft this. This is just who he is.
And God.
Yeah. Yeah, he shaped and changed me as much as anybody ever has.
If not more.
And the more I can spend time and thinking about these things, it'll be to my benefit. Because it's easy to just be sad and remorseful, and that goes with it. But just I want to take away from how he lived when he was here. He really did. He lived well.
He lived even when he was sick. That kid. And I think that's so much. We shared this in the last episode, but I think it's so much why you fight to live now. Because that kid, he wasn't gonna let the party miss him. I mean, he wanted to be part. You gotta live life.
It's crazy to me. I mean, I never met him, and so it's like hearing these stories from you guys. Not many people that live make that kind of impact, and are that they don't stand out, like he did. They don't live a life that remarkable, and they don't say the things that he said. They don't love people the way that he did, and so much so that you could talk about him in the way that you are right now, and I can visualize it. And I never met him, You know what I mean? Like I feel like that he was that strong of a figure in history kind of thing, you know, the history of the world kind of thing. And
that's why the song goes on.
It's there's no other it's like he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And not everybody does that. They don't.
He did.
He did.
I agree.
He did
I
exactly
agree with that.
what he was
Very
supposed
much.
to do. And he was on stage and the lights were on just for a little bit, just like they are for all of us. And he played his role perfect. And not everybody does that. And when you do that, people tell stories about you like these to people like me who never met him. And those stories impact people, you know? And I mean, that's all I hear is like someone like from the outside of it, you know, at least when you guys are going through it, it's like, it's very clear, like who it was,
What he cared about.
A piece of what he was put here to do. You know, I don't pretend to comprehend all that, but what a damn good life, you know?
Yep.
What else? I mean,
No.
more time. Yeah. But like, if I could end my time like that, where people sit and tell stories like this about me, what else? What else? What I don't want anything else, you know? So.
He was amazing.
Yeah. That's good. I miss him. Terrible, but I'm so proud of him.
I'm so proud he was ours. I'm so proud of him. Not that he was ours, because it wasn't us, but I'm so proud of him and that we got to be his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably a better way to say it.
Yeah. And you follow him now. That's what I'm saying. Like that's a different story than most stories. Like that you follow, you're following after his faith. Usually it's the other way around, you know, and that's very special in the amount of stories that are told
8-year-old kid.
of people that live like they're usually the other way around. And he was so switched on and so alive and full of faith that we can follow him. You know, he knew something we didn't, you know. That's insane. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
He was great.
Yeah.
I really miss him.
Thank you guys for it's an honor. So
thank y'all
to be able to sit here and hear this story that I don't think it won't be told like this many times, you know, and so to be able to be a part of it's a huge honor.
I can't do this that many times.
Yeah, the courage I
don't
talk
think
about
you're supposed
Abram, y'all followed in that footsteps. You knew it
this
sucked.
is not going to happen very many times. This is
you did it anyways.
For sure.
God asking us, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
Kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Lots of screaming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got any last words?
No, I mean, just like I said, that's a great way to say it. Just trying to follow him, and he loved and helped a lot of people, and I don't know if it will reach like he did, but that's why we're hoping this will be helpful. And if it's not, I'm sorry, I really am. But that's the hope, and that's why we're doing it.
It's Abram's song.
Yep, Abram's song.